I see a lot of people doing trading now. That has become, sort of popular or sort of, you know, very known. And, you can have somebody who has a stable job, they're bringing in stable income, and they might see a glimpse of success or a glimpse of, you know, a massive slim of profit from trading, and they might think that's the green sign to quit their job instantly. And they're not in the wrong track. The only thing is, the problem with jumping the gun too early is by you making this decision to quit your job early on without at least making sure that you're financially stable and have some sort of freedom, which can be having a certain amount of money saved. You're just going to bring loads of problems onto yourself. It's going to cause stress down the line. And all of this is because you're jumping the gun and you're just making decisions based off your emotions. A lot of people, have their issues with the 9 to 5, but you have to be mature in a way. You have to realize you're going to have to do things that you don't want to do in order to do things that you do want to do. For instance, say if you take the time out and you plan strategically, you know, how you're going to use the 9 to 5 in order for you to elevate your life. So the goal is never to stay at a 9 to 5 until retirement. Although you do have a lot of people who choose that route, there's nothing wrong with that route. If that's what you're comfortable with doing, hey, whatever works for you, works for you. You feel me? For a lot of people that don't want to, work the 9 to 5 for the rest of their lives, you have to use the 9 to 5 as a foundation first, to get you to where you want to be at. You feel me? Whether that may be saving from your 9 to 5 over a certain amount of time so that you can gain a net worth to where you can have that cushion to be able to make certain decisions. You feel me? You can work a 9 to 5 for a year or two, probably 3 years, save up as much money as you can, and by the end of those 3 years, 2 years, maybe just 1 year, you will have your 10K, your 20K saved up from that, almost 30K saved up. And now with that 30K saved, you can, I'm not saying that you should necessarily quit then, but if you do choose to quit then, you will have a cushion and you'll have a certain amount of freedom available to you. With that 30K thousand saved, you can invest that money. You could make that money work for you to then make even more money for you, whether that may be investing in certain equipment or, you know, learning certain things, starting a business, you know, starting whatever, you know, but by you using that 9 to 5 as a foundation so that it can fuel the rest of your passions or whatever else you plan on doing, it'll make it to where you're more prepared for life. You feel me? But by you just, you know, thinking a certain way, because this is the reason why it's all about perspective. You feel me? A 9 to 5 can be hell for one person, but at the same time, it could be a huge stepping stone or a huge progression tool for another person. It's all about how you view it. You feel me? This is why you have to move smart in life. Because you can sit down and you can hate your job, all you want, but it really only takes you to just use your brain. You feel me? If you don't like where you're working at, it don't take none to apply to 5 jobs, that same day, and apply to 5 more the next day, and all of that will boost your chances of finding another job that you do like. For me, for instance, I used to work a job where I had to cook. I was in the kitchen a lot, and jobs like that towards very labor intensive or whatever, that could cause you to stress a lot, and that can cause you to not like the job that you're at. What I did was I took the time out to apply to more jobs, apply to different jobs near me until I eventually found a different job that I was comfortable with doing. So that's a quick fix for that. A lot of people be complaining a lot about what type of job they work at, and oh, it's not for them. They don't like where they're at, bro. Just find a different job, bro. Don't look at every 9 to 5 as if they're all hell or they're just useless, bro. A 9 to 5 can literally kickstart your financial journey right now. It can kickstart it. Like, you can never really start any type of journey or any passion without money. You always need money for everything. So by you using that 9 to 5 to save that money to then fund other passions and other sources of income that you want to create, you'll then be able to prosper. If you don't want to gain a stable source of income while at the same time working on, other passions or whatnot, you're just choosing a dumb route. I'm not saying that you can't gain success from doing that, but it's just not smart. You feel me? Especially if you're living on your own. If you're at home, you might can take that risk of quitting your 9 to 5 and focusing on that. Let your bills start racking up. Let you, have responsibilities. Let you need to pay certain, bills. You're not going to be able to rely on, risky sources of income like that. Like say if you're trying to, start drop shipping, but you quit your job early on, you don't have that stable source of income. So now that when you start, working on your drop shipping business, if things start going bad, you don't have anything else, and this is why you never want to just work on your passion solo. You want to make sure you have a job early on. Even though a lot of people bash the 9 to 5, you definitely want to use the 9 to 5 early on in your financial journey so that you can, progress through life smoothly. You want to be able to have the money set aside for if you need a new tire or if you need an oil change or if you need, if you need to do this, if you need to do that, whatever type of emergency comes up randomly, you need the money to be able to stay afloat. So this is why having a 9 to 5 is, very important early on in your financial journey. This is for a lot of people that, want to know if they should focus on getting a job early on. Yes, you should get a job and keep that job until you know, are stable and you have a big enough cushion to leave it. You know what I'm saying? My biggest suggestion as far as leaving your 9 to 5 would be to leave when you have enough money to last you a few years. If you have enough money to last you, 12 months to, a few years from your 9 to 5 saved up, you can then be able to quit that 9 to 5 and go full in on, those other streams of income. You feel me? So that you can elevate even more. But because the 9 to 5, depending on what you work, your 9 to 5 might not take you to the next level in life. Some people's jobs will, but on average, the average job is not going to take you to that next level in life. You feel me? You're going to definitely need other streams of income, and you're going to have to gain more skills outside of the skills that was required from your job. But that's all I got for today's vid, man. Don't ever look down on the 9 to 5, bro. You want to definitely be smart. Use the 9 to 5 as a, progression tool to fund your other passions and whatever else you have, you know, in line to, work on. You feel me? The 9 to 5 can either be a hell for most people. It can either be an experience that you just don't want to experience again, or it can either be something that could, help you, gain financial freedom early on. It's up to you. But that's all I got for today's video, man. I'm gonna catch y'all next one. Peace out.